Hi, and welcome to section 3.2. We're talking about experiments in the real world. What we're going to get at today, how can an experiment design reduce issues in an experiment's results? And learning targets, we can design experiments using different experimental methods. So something to think about, something to set up for you. A pharmaceutical company is running an experiment on individuals to test the effects of a drug to improve their quality of life. On Monday, the individuals will take either the treatment or the placebo, randomly assigned, record their responses. On Friday, then, they will take the other, then record their responses. Is there any potential issues? Think about that for a second. Okay, after you thought about it for a second, let's just kind of talk about the issues that could happen here. Now, notice in this situation, individuals are taking both of them. They're taking both of them to the drug to improve their quality of life. On Monday, the individual takes one of them. On Friday, that same individual takes the other. So we could have a situation here where we've got 100 individuals that are out there, and I'm only going to draw two scenarios up here because they'll represent that. But each person in this situation is going to be their own control. So what we have is we have on Monday and we have on Friday. So on Monday, situation one is that they take the treatment, and then on Friday they take the placebo. Now, the other situation is they take the placebo on Monday and they take the treatment on Friday. So there's two situations, and what we're doing is we're simply asking about questions about their quality of life and how they feel. Now, if you look at this and you think about this, is there anything else? Are there any lurking variables that we're not taking into account in this situation? Okay, because the design here as it looks okay. There's enough time in between for the effects to wear off. But the thing that we're not taking into account in this is how do you generally feel on Monday versus a Friday? Okay, so if you're looking at this placebo, if this is a typical individual that on Friday is looking forward to the weekend, this placebo may seem like it's improving the quality of life simply because of the day of the week. Whereas over here, we're taking the placebo on Monday, and your Mondays are maybe not as nice. Personally, I like Mondays because I get to see you guys. But in Fridays, I'm sad because you go home. But anyway, on your typical people are not really a big fan of Monday and really like Fridays. So this is going to compound the effects right here, whereas this over here, you may not be able to tease out a difference where on your quality of life on here is affected because of the treatment, yet on Friday, you are measuring at the same quantities or you're given the same information as you did on Monday simply because the day of the week. Whereas over here, you could have, you've got your placebo on Monday, so your quality of life is down there and your treatment is up here. Point being, we can't really tease out what is causing it. Is the day of the week that's causing it, or is it the treatment? So keep that in mind. Equal treatment for all. This assumes that all subjects are treated equal except for the treatments that the experiment is designed to compare. Any other unequal treatment could cause bias. So basically what this means is our two individuals that we were talking about up there, every interaction that they have with their doctor or their researcher is the exact same, even down to the pills that they're taking. So we're talking about a quality of life pill. The pill that they're taking is going to look, it's going to taste, it's going to feel, it's going to weigh. So everything about it is going to be the same except the active ingredient. So there's going to be either yes, active ingredient. So in this situation, we would say yes, there's an active ingredient, AI. And in this one, we would say that there's no AI. So when this person takes the pill, the active ingredient is included in there. When this person takes the pill, there's no active ingredient inside of that pill. So it's not going to have that in there. Now, this is noted, and we'll talk about double-blind experiments in a second here, but if you look at this, the subjects can't know They just can't know whether they're taking the placebo or the treatment, because that in itself is going to have some placebo effect on it, or it could have some, it could cause some effect of what's going on with that. So they're treated the exact same. The subjects don't know. Now let's segue into double-blind experiments. So this right here would be a single-blind experiment where what we have is a pill going into the individual. The individual doesn't know if they have the treatment or the placebo. Now, a double-blind experiment is neither the subjects nor the people who work with them know which treatment is the subject is receiving. So you have some doctor who's just given a cup. They're given one of the little medical cups that with the pills inside, and it could be either the control or it could be the actual treatment that they're getting. The doctor doesn't know. There could be some unconscious or unintended bias going on if the doctor or the administrator of the pills knew what was going on in measurements and rounding, and it could be totally unconscious that it's happening. But if the doctor doesn't know, that eliminates another potential source of bias. So a double-blind experiment, neither the doctor nor the patients know if they're getting that treatment or the placebo. And once again, this is to eliminate some of that bias that could happen. Now, note that there is somebody somewhere along the line that does know. So the researchers, so the people putting on the experiment are going to be in some room putting pills in cups. So we've got our little white cup here, putting pills in cups and then bringing them over to the doctor and giving it to them. So the cups have labels and they know, so the researcher knows who has what, but the doctor doesn't know. They're just given a cup of pills that they give to the patients and they measure their blood pressure, mood, or whatever it is. Completely randomized design. All experimental subjects are allocated at random among the treatments. So the completely randomized design is to, so this is kind of one of your logic things. Completely randomized design is to experiments as the SRS is to samples. So this is the most basic way of doing it. Simplest statistical design for experiments. So the completely randomized design is to experiments as the SRS is to samples and sample surveys. So if you think about it like that, it is the most basic, it is the most simple way of creating an experiment. And in this situation, what you have is you have some study population. You've got people, doesn't matter what the makeup is, what the demographics are. What you're going to do is you're going to randomly assign them, They don't know, remember. They're just they're put into a group that they take the pill or whatever the situation is, the shot or the medication, however they're taking it. You've got your people. They're getting allocated at random into either the treatment or the control. Now, as you do your experiment, you go through whatever it is, whether it's a course of 6 weeks on this or a month or a year or whatever the case is, you go through it and there's going to be follow-up, and there's probably going to be ongoing follow-ups that happen. There's going to be an ongoing thing as you're getting measured, just to monitor and make sure things are working properly and that there's not any adverse side effects that need to shut down the experiment right now. And then what you do in the end is you compare results. So then you look at your control group and your treatment group, and you say, okay, was there, as we talked before, significant, I think I spelled that right, was there a significant difference between those two groups? A difference that was big enough not to be caused by chance. Matching. So this is going to be, if you look up here and you think about your completely randomized design goes to experiments as SRS goes to sample. Matching in this situation, this is going to be like your stratified random sample, where you're putting people in a pool together that have some similar characteristic that might make sense with that. So we'll talk about a block design and matched pairs design. So a block design, What a block is, it's a group of experimental subjects that are known before the experiment to be similar in some way that is expected to affect the response to treatments. So in short, subjects are similar in some way that is expected to affect the response. So if we had, say, a group of 200 individuals and we grouped them by their current hair color, is that going to have an effect on their blood pressure? Well, their current hair color, it's, is that a way that it's expected to make a difference? No. What would probably be more important to, blood pressure would be, say, your weight class. How do you fall? Are you overweight, underweight, obese there, or age? Or, your group of 20s, your group of 30s. And then what we'll do within each of those groups is we'll split them up from there. Male, female as well. So in a block design, the random assignment of subjects to treatment is carried out separately within each block. Just like if you think about sample surveys, the stratified random sample, it took the entire population, separated them into groups, and then within each of the groups you did random. Well, same story here. We've got 1,200 subjects. In this situation, we're going to group by men and women. So we're going to say there's 600 men in this, and there's 600 women in there. Something that could have an effect on it. So what we're going to do within the men is we're going to randomly assign 300 to the treatment and 300 to the subjects, and then we're going to compare. We're going to measure and compare. And we're going to do that same thing within the women, is we're going to group into treatment and placebo. Now notice, in total, you've got 300 men taking the treatment and 300 women taking the treatment. And you also have 300 men and 300 women taking that. So what we're doing is we're forcing the hand of representation on who's taking what. Matched pairs design compares two treatments, uses pairs of subjects. So there's two different ways. So the first way, it used pairs of subjects that are closely matched as possible. So in this situation, scientists love twins or triplets or any multiples. Uses pairs of subjects that are closely matched as possible. Talk about a very, very close, almost perfect match of individuals. You randomly assign each treatment to a different treatment. So this would, if I can go back up to a picture here, let's just say that we're running with this. Notice that these two individuals are very similar. What we can do is we have a bunch of groups of two. What we're going to do is within that, we're going to give one the control and one the treatment. Now, it doesn't necessarily have to be twins. It could be people that are the same age or have the same blood pressure or what have you. It's just subjects that are closely matched as possible. It could be 32-year-old males who are, say, obese or whatever, or who work out or whatever the case is. Now, the other matched pair design example, it compares to treatment, but it uses a single person who has both treatments, one after the other. So if you go back to our initial warm-up question, the individual taking the pill on Monday and Friday. Now, is that a good setup? Probably not. So you're going to want to have enough time. And there's a lot of variables that are different as you're doing that. But example of this is if you had, say, a sunscreen. So if you had sunscreen, you've got two different compounds that you want to try out. Well, if you have one individual has, maybe two legs or two arms that are the same. So what you could do is you could dedicate this half of the body to compound A and this half of the body to compound B and check to see what's going on. Now, in this situation, you probably wouldn't want to do a placebo because that would be not good. You're putting somebody in harm's way, and we'll talk about ethics and all that in the next lesson. But within that, you could talk about bug spray. Compound A on arm A and compound B on side B. So you serve as your own control. Now, the order is randomized once again. We don't know which is going on which or for bias purposes. So the order is going to be randomized. So example, non-adherers, and then we're done. So a pharmaceutical company wants to explore medication A for some ailment. They have 50 males and females who have volunteered for the treatment, create an experimental design for the company to use. So in a completely randomized design, what you're doing is you're taking your 100 subjects and you're breaking them into 50 control, 50 with the medication A, and then you're going to measure and compare. So M and C means measure and compare. Completely randomized design. Now, if we're going to use a block design, we know that we have 50 males and 50 females. So what we can do is we can take those 100 subjects, we can split them into their male and female groups, and then within each of those we can go 25 and 25, and then at the end we're going to measure and compare. Last piece of the puzzle here, non-adherers are people who participate but don't follow the experimental treatment, which can cause bias. So non-adherers, so say you're on a blood pressure medication and your situation is that you need to take this medication, you need to do a workout, let's just say a 30-minute walk every day is your workout for that, and we're talking non-adherers. So this person takes the medication but doesn't do the walk. Or if they got the workout and they're on a strict diet, or if that person goes on their walk and eats a bunch of donuts, okay, that your blood pressure is not going to be affected by that pill because you're counteracting with it. So you try to control as much as you can, and people that don't follow the rules are non-adherers. And then dropouts are people who begin, or subjects who begin the experiment but don't complete it. Experiments over a long period of time. So if you've got an experiment that's going on for a year or really, a month is a long time when you're talking about this kind of stuff. Sometimes subjects die. If that happens, well, that's a dropout. And that's harsh, but they're in, but they don't finish. People just kind of give up on it. The experiments over the long period of time are going to have some degree of dropout.